Ferial, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View. I mean, we have the NEC meeting coming up this weekend, and we have a letter of suspension being issued by Jesse Duarte to the Secretary-General of the ANC, and he says that's not correct. I don't know if he's right or not. And then as we get ready to go to bed last night, we hear that Ace Magashule is suspending the president. What is going on?
So, Dan, I think vaccines are more important, but as per usual, we are absorbed by the palace politics of the ANC. So last night was quite surprising. If many people first interpreted it as a mini putsch or coup, but actually I think it's just the politics of chaos. The suspended ANC Secretary-General of the ANC, Mr. Ace Magshule, he of course has never had the power to suspend a sitting president of the ANC. If you look at the party's constitution, it's pretty clear that that's such a huge move. It's only something which the National Executive Committee, or what I call the High Command, the National Working Committee, can in fact do. And I think Mr. Magashule knows that very well. As you said, he is setting up for this weekend's meeting, where I think he's either going to announce or we're going to hear that he's going to appeal the suspension, or perhaps he'll even go straight to court, because one thing we do know is that Mr. Magashule is very well lawyered up. If he does go to court, he's likely to argue that the action of the ANC infringes on his right to be presumed innocent until found guilty in those 70-odd counts of corruption that he's facing in the High Court.
But what about the resolution that the party itself has taken, that those who are accused of serious charges must step aside, and we're already seeing some of them doing so in other parts of the country?
Yes, there's about, I believe, 30 party representatives, members or leaders who have been submitted in the list as people who are facing serious charges and who must now step aside. I haven't seen that full list, but as we can see, it is happening. On the other hand, several ANC leaders like Mr. Bongani Bongo, the ANC MP, and Ms. Zandile Gumede, who is the former eThekwini mayor but now a member of the provincial legislature, have already said that they are not going to step aside. They'll either go to court or they will appeal those suspensions, if those suspensions have indeed been made.
It's very interesting that the members of the party, they should subscribe or abide by its code of conduct and resolutions that are taken at a collective level. And yet, when from outside, it looks to me, when those are being implemented finally, they step back and they say, no, it can't apply to me. That's how it looks like. Like people like Ace Magashule and those you've mentioned are saying, yes, the resolution is good enough, but not for me.
Well, I suppose taking that resolution 4 years ago, it was really one of the more heralded moments of the Nasrec conference of the ANC. And in fact, implementing it has proven to be an almost 4-year-long journey. And I think that tells you that being in the ANC is a very powerful and often a very lucrative place to be, and that, as the saying goes, it's very cold outside, and that's why people are fighting with their lives now, and that's what kept us up well beyond midnight last night.
Yeah, so what should we then expect or anticipate, Ferial, would take place at this NEC meeting this weekend? We had Tony Yengeni a short while ago. He spoke to my colleague, Govan Whittles, saying he believes the timing of all of this is to influence the flow or the content of this weekend's meeting.
Well, I think that the last NEC meeting already tells you where the wind blows or where the majority is held, because that meeting at the end of March, I think it was, Dan, already decided that the step aside had to be implemented, and that the people impacted by it, like Mr. Magashule, had 30 days in which to step aside. So it gave them some space. What does that tell you? It tells you that more than the majority has agreed with that. So I think this weekend we'll see, yes, debates. I think a lot of stuff coming into the media space, as we've seen. Mr. Yangeni, I think, is now the chief public representative of the view of Mr. Magashule. But in the end, I think we'll see, again, a restatement of the view that people have to step aside. If they don't do so voluntarily, then they will be suspended.
So now, if he's been temporarily suspended according to the letter, that's Mr. Magashule, the letter that he's received from the deputy, Jesse Duarte, will this NEC meeting then rubber stamp that decision? Because he's challenging it and says it's flawed, it's unconstitutional in terms of the party's own constitution.
Well, I'm not sure if you've read the Constitution, but it's not. I mean, it doesn't come from his deputy, Mr. Jesse Duarte. She signed it, but in fact, it was a decision of the National Working Committee, which is, I think, a 26-strong high command of the ANC, and it was that body which decided on Monday on suspension. Like I said, I think Mr. Magashule probably will take the procedural case that he's making. You could see it end up in court, and our courts have sometimes chosen to enter the realm of ANC politics, and other times they've batted it back to them and said, this is a voluntary organization, it makes its own decisions. I do think we will see this ending up in the courts, Dan.
Thank you very much for your insights as usual.